Hi everyone, it's Lucy from My Crazy Craft Life, and I am here with part 2 of the Scrapping for Less April Flavor of the Month card kit. And with this one, I am going to be reviewing the cards I made from collections 3 and 4. I actually started out with collection 4, that's what this is, and I ended up being very excited when I opened this kit because one, I love these Stampendous little mouse stamps. They are some of my absolute favorite. And then I was also super excited because with the kit this month we got Avriel liquid watercolor, and I had really been wanting to try them, but I had not purchased any yet. So when I got this, I was really excited that I was going to be able to try this. And since I was going to be using that, I decided to pull out my actual watercolor palette and just watercolor the entire image, which I ended up watercoloring all 4 of the images for all 4 of the cards that I created using the sketches and this stamp. And because this stamp is so large, I had to get kind of creative with some of the sketches to have them have the stamp fit inside of some of the focal points, I guess you want to say, on this card sketches, but I think they ended up turning out really cute, and I really enjoyed using the watercolors. I don't watercolor a lot, and I do like it. I don't think I'm super proficient at it, but I do enjoy doing it, and I think it's a lot of fun when I get to use it. Now here is the washi tape. This was the actual collection that the washi tape came in, and I used the washi tape to create a lot of backgrounds and kind of panels for the cards I was making. It gave me some additional um, pattern paper, I guess you can say, to use, and so I was able to use that and use the washi tape up and get something else added into it. So I know I said in the previous video I'm really trying to make sure that I'm using embellishments and washi tape and not just storing it in my craft room, taking up space and not really out there doing anything for anyone or other than cluttering up my craft room. But like I said, I'm trying to make sure that I am really getting out there and using this stuff. So here I was just going through and watercoloring, picking out the colors. I ended up making 3 of the 4 cards with a purple flower just because I don't know, I just thought that worked best. And then I did do one that was an orangey color one. But you can see here, like I said, I'm not going to stay long on all of this watercoloring because I'm not great at it, so there's no reason for everybody to sit there and look at it. But here is where I started putting together the cards and how I wanted to use it. Also with this kit, with the banana split level, you got a Lawn Fawn die with the sprigs, and that's what I was able to use for a lot of this. Now here on one of the sketches you needed to use a bow and a ribbon, and I wanted to use this ribbon, but it was too thick for what I wanted to use it for, and I thought I could cut it, but that wasn't going to work. So I went back and forth and had to come up with a lot of different things and was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted. But you can see how long this process takes for me sometimes when I'm doing different things. It's not a fast process that I go through. Sometimes I can sit down and just whip out cards like nothing and everything is great, and other times it takes me an hour to an hour and a half for one card with everything that's going on with them. But here I was using, just piecing all of my pieces together. There are all the images that I watercolored, and I was just putting this one together. I ended up popping it up on some fun foam. Because I ended up watercoloring the background a little bit of that, it warped a little bit, so I wanted to make sure. That's why I used a ton of tape on there, because I wanted to make sure it stayed down. And then this I was just kind of piecing together, figuring out what I was going to like for that next sketch. And the pattern paper that came with this I really liked. It was a lot of fun to work with. There was a lot of great colors that was there. And then making the other panels with the washi tape, I think ended up working out really well. So for this card, I really didn't have to use much, or for all of these cards actually, I really didn't have to use much from my stash other than the ribbon in that first card, and then I don't think I used anything from my stash on the majority of these cards. I was able to cut down the banners just from the different pattern paper that I had there, and that's how I was able to put that one together. So I think, like I said, I just love the little mouse. I think he is so adorable, and those are some of my favorite stamps from Stamp Pendus that comes out with all the little different mice that are there. The next one I was making with that, and you see I had to get kind of creative with my cutting and how I was going to put in that. Keep the stamp and kind of keep the process and the thought of the stamp, but cut it down to a 2 1/8 inch square was kind of tricky, but I think I pulled it off pretty good. I was able to keep the flower in there with him trying to get it along with the little mouse. And then I used actually the entire panel that I had created with the washi tape for the background of this. I used one of the pattern papers just for the scalloped piece that's in there. And then I used sentiment from the sentiment stamp that was included with the banana split level kit. Since I was using pattern paper to stamp this sentiment, I wanted to heat emboss it, and I used white embossing powder for it, and I think that works the best when you're using pattern paper to do the embossing. I don't know, I just think it makes it pop better. So here I'm just adhering down the sentiment, or I mean the panel, and then I'm popping on that front panel, and then I'm going to add some sequins that were part of the kit. Now, these sequins actually had like flowers that were part of it, and I thought it would be really cute to add the round sequins in the center to kind of make it actually look like a flower. And I think that turned out really, really cute. So that's what I end up doing here is just, I was having lots of trouble with my glue. I had to get a new um, bottle of glue, the multimedia matte, and then I put on a new type of fine line adapter, and I was having trouble with that, so I was going back and forth. I ended up starting to use my glossy accents as adhesive because I was just getting irritated with that. Now on to my next card with this one. Again, I created a panel with the washi tape, and basically what I did was I just lined up the pattern, flipped over the edges of it, and that's kind of how I made the different panels for the cards that I was using that I made with the washi tape. Like I said, this particular um, group had a lot of, or pattern papers had a lot of really nice ones. And this was another one, since I watercolored on it, I wanted to make sure that it was really adhered well onto the paper. And I ended up kind of framing out the image that was colored on there. And then I'm just trying to pick out what I want for my banner, which colors I want, and how I want it used. Now again, I'm using a sentiment from the sentiment stamp. It had happy spring, happy birthday, bloom where you are planted, hello, and along with a couple images of flowers. And so I ended up using the happy birthday on this one. Of course, I got to get my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen in there. Can't have a card without that. And then I used glossy accents to put in the raindrops for all of these, just to give it a little more dimension. And I went back with all of the cards and added the Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to all of the flowers and added the glossy accents to all of the raindrops that were coming down. And those are the cards from that collection, which, like I said, is actually collection 4. I really enjoyed working with the watercolors and how they all ended up turning out. I thought it was great. I had a really good time working with the watercolors and working with the Avriel liquid watercolor. So the next set is actually collection 3, and it's Stamping Bella, Tiny Towny Daffodil Girl. And this was another one that I had to get kind of creative with how I was going to use this stamp on all of these cards since some of the focal points were so small. But I think I managed that one pretty good. This first one I did, I basically colored her yellow with a little orange highlights on there, and I think I actually end up taking out, you see I go back and forth with what colors. And I have realized over the years that I just have a hard time with white. I don't like just plain white there. I look at so many cards and I think they're gorgeous that are just with white backgrounds or that have, the focal images just stamped on a white piece that's either cut out with, a die or just even just cut out. But for me, I don't know why. I just don't like it. I just like a lot of color, I guess. I don't know what to say. But this one, again, I followed the sketches, but the sketches are there for inspiration. It's not that they necessarily have to be exact. So this one was supposed to be a horizontal card, and I ended up making it vertical, and I moved around the banner. But like I said, I think it's there for inspiration. It's not that that's exactly what has to happen. On a lot of these, I did follow it because I was making so many, and I thought it would be cool to try to use the sketches exactly like they are with all 4 collections. But like I said, sometimes you have to get a little creative. And on here, of course, I got to use my sparkle pen. And I just used it for the shoes, the thing in her hair, and then the kind of like the petals that she had around her neck, and then the sentiment. So I just thought that was adorable. The next card I did, they had all of these amazing colors with the pattern paper, and I know daffodils are in general usually yellow, but I was like, I just don't want to use all yellow. And then what am I going to use all these pattern papers for? And I just thought they would be really cute with it. So I actually Googled daffodils and I just searched the images and tons of different colors came up. Now I don't know if I mean, they looked like they were real. I'm assuming that they were real and somehow they hybrid them or did something to them, but there were so many different colors, and this was actually one of them. It was white petals, and kind of the inside of the daffodil was red. So I thought that would be really cool to go with this red paper, pattern paper that came with the kit. And so I ended up using that. There was a piece of twine that came inside of this kit. So following the sketch, making the little bow and using the ribbon around it. And then I played back and forth with how I was going to go, but I ended up using, again, just the red pattern paper that was here, made a circle, made a smaller circle, stamped in the happy birthday from the sentiment kit, and then popped that on there. I cut the sprigs out of some scrap green paper that I had from my stash, and then I just popped the entire card onto a white card base. Now, this was actually the last collection that I did, so by the time I got to this collection, I did have to start using card bases from my stash, but up until that point, I don't believe I used anything other than what came in the kit for my card bases. Now that they're using the My Favorite Things paper and they're sending the sheets with the colors, and you can get two A2 size cards out of it, each one, and then they send 210 pound. I was able just to cut those down and use those as well. Now for my third one, this was the one that I had to get a little creative with and try to figure out exactly which parts I wanted in the card, because the focal point is a 2 and an eighth square that I was, excuse me, that I was trying to fit inside of that focal point with this pretty large stamp of the girl. So then I decided that, I was just going to have her body and her arm, and I wanted her arm and everything in there as far as the hand up in the air and stuff, because I thought that was cute. So, and this one I was going for the orange. So I was using some yellow and orange alcohol markers to kind of get the coloring that I wanted, because I didn't want it too dark of an orange, and I used the yellow just to kind of keep it as a highlight in there. And then I thought green and orange, just these particular greens and oranges just went really well together. And then as part of the kit as well came those card fronts with the circles that were shiny on them, and I thought that would be really cute in the background of that. And then I used my scallop die to cut the orange part with the scallop and make sure all of my little pieces were out there. You know, I've used that scallop die with every one of the cards that I made, and I haven't poked all of the holes that are actually in there out, so now it's kind of getting to the point that it's not pulling out the little holes that are in that scallop. But I think this turned out super cute with the orange and the green, and I think at first I wasn't sure how I was going to feel with the polka dots with the pattern paper, and that pattern paper is kind of bold and kind of loud, but I think it ended up working out really well. I popped the whole card panel onto some fun foam. For the sentiment, I was just going to stick a happy birthday. I always need more happy birthday cards, so the majority of these cards I was using was making them as happy birthday. And I just stamped that right onto that panel, and since it was, again, the pattern paper, I wanted to make sure that I heat embossed it with some embossing powder just to kind of make it sure that it popped out and you could really read the sentiment and see it. Then I added some of the Kennedy Grace sequins that came in the kit, and I stuck with the greens and the oranges that were in there, and then of course I had to use my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen for that with the daffodil and then the petals that were around her neck. And then for my last one was the circle one, and again I had to cut out part of the stamp when I did this. And for this one I used pink and a turquoisey, I guess, aquamarine kind of color for the stamp as well as the paper that I was using, because they had this really bright, bold pink that was in the pattern paper, and then one of the card panels, the front card panels that they had with the circles, was a turquoisey aquamarine color with the polka dots. And with the circle, you kind of had to make this triangular type shape for the pattern behind the circle. And I thought those two colors just really went well together. And again, when I Googled daffodils, I didn't actually find any that were kind of turquoise and hot pink, but I didn't care. We're creating here, right? So it can be any colors that I want. I didn't have to stick with the yellows or just the colors that they came in. I can put them together any way and anyhow that I want. So I ended up making them these colors. And then to cut out that panel, I go back and forth a few times trying to figure out and decide which one that I wanted. Now for this card I ended up having to use one of my card bases, but then for the banners I didn't like any of the other pattern papers because I didn't want oranges or reds or yellows with the pink and the aquamarine color. So I ended up just taking some picked raspberry distress oxide, and I put it around the circle just again because I have a problem with just using plain white. And then I just made a panel with that, and I used a piece of black scrap cardstock, and I ended up using the pink on top of it for the smallest banner. And there, of course, I had to change my tape. But I went back and forth, like I said, deciding, but I think the polka dots, like I said, I was kind of concerned about the polka dots and what I thought and how it was going to go, but I think it ended up working out really well. So those were the banners, and I did not pop any of this up. I just wanted it to kind of be flush, make sure I can send it through the mail without an issue. And then as I was going through, I'm putting on my sequins and setting it all up, and then I realized after I was done, I thought the card was done. I used my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, that wait a minute, I don't have a sentiment on there. So I thought it was kind of cute to go under the hand. But that's it. Thanks so much for joining me, and have a great day.